Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Reddit You Spooky. Continuing on with our month of Spooktober, another spooky story. There's nothing spookier than a wall of text, so for those of you following along at home, yeah, there's walls of text. So be prepared for that. For the rest of you, sit back, relax, turn off the lights, and let's get into it. My experience of my haunted house from the r/paranormal subreddit, posted by user Ayyykers. This is my first post on Reddit ever, and I promise you everything I'm about to say is 100% the truth. I've hesitated on telling anyone these encounters for a while, but I feel as if it's just time. So, me, my fiancé, and her children moved into our dream house, September of 2018. At first, everything was perfect. It wasn't until a few months after moving in until we started to experience the strangeness. The first situation happened one night when me and my fiancé were sleeping in our bedroom. We slept with the lights off because that's just how I've always slept, and I've never thought twice about it. Ever. However, this night just felt different. She was making strange noises, and I felt very strange, as if there was some static-type energy around the room. She started mumbling in her sleep. However, I couldn't make out any of the words. She seemed as if she was struggling. I tried to wake her, but she just wouldn't wake up. I tried to ignore this and go back to sleep, but this static, strange feeling got so bad I just had to turn on my bedside lamp. However, she kept making these strange noises, and it made me so uncomfortable that I had this completely, what felt like random, surge to close the bathroom door that was diagonal to our bed. I can explain what made me do this seemingly irrational decision, but it's as if everything in my entire being was telling me to close this bathroom door. Again, being a complete skeptic to anything paranormal or strange, I still couldn't shake this deep urge to close this door for some reason. So, I got up from the bed to close it. I only made a few steps towards the bathroom door when my fiancée shot up straight in bed, gasping for air, and began bawling her eyes out. I darted over to her to comfort her, and she began rambling about how she felt as if something was holding her down. Yet, she said that she left her body. I'm guessing sleep paralysis upon further research. And she was standing in the corner where the bathroom door was. She said she saw me walking towards her, and that's what woke her up. Now, all this being said, I was a skeptic. I didn't really believe in things like this. However, she was not one to ever make something like this up, and with the look of complete horror on her face, I believed her. After that incident, we both agreed that we just didn't feel safe in that room anymore. Something felt off, so we both went downstairs to sleep on our living room couch. That very same night, not even 30 minutes later, her son, only being 5 years old at the time, started screaming bloody murder. Due to the strange situation we had earlier, we were both still awake. I jumped off the couch and ran upstairs. He was already running downstairs to us. We met in the kitchen on the middle floor. Once I was able to calm him down and stop him from crying, he was able to explain what was wrong. He said, clear as day, he saw black things coming out of his wall, and that they were trying to hurt him. Now, I understand that he was just 5 years old. He could have had a bad dream. However, this was the very first time he ever claimed such a thing. Even the first time he claimed to be having a bad dream since I've known him. And I've been in the picture for over 2 years at this point. Again, being a skeptic just didn't seem possible at this moment, especially considering what just happened 30 minutes before. I believed him. So, I comforted him and brought him down with me and his mother to the living room to sleep with us. And my fiancée got her daughter from her room because I didn't feel safe anymore leaving them alone. I just didn't feel safe anymore. The next incident was pretty small, but I still cannot explain it. A few weeks had passed from that night, and me and my fiancée were in our living room. She was on the sofa and I was in my lazy boy. We were just watching TV and the kids were in the upstairs living room playing. I remember my fiance's daughter distinctively came downstairs to tell us something, but when she saw me, she started freaking out and crying, us being worried. Her mother went after her asking what was wrong. She said the girl next to me was mad at her. Now, this was very strange, because the only ones there were me, my fiancé, her son and daughter. So, confused, we asked her what she meant. She directly said, "The girl in the weird white dress does not want me here." I remember being so thrown off from this, it made me sick, especially what had already happened. I knew something wasn't right. She said that there basically was a little girl in a white dress next to me where I was sitting, and when she went to talk to me, she said it didn't like her. I still to this day don't even know what to make of this. A few more weeks had passed, and things had almost gone back to normal. Except not quite. Since that night, there seemed to be a thick tension in the air. Something had shifted. My fiancée seemed tense and easily irritable, which was very against her nature. She would fly off the handle as things just a few weeks prior she wouldn't even think twice about. She just didn't seem herself. The next experience that happens follows a few weeks later. It was intense, and before I say the following, I need the reader to understand that it is the truth. That it still haunts me to this day. The details are a little blurry, because I honestly tried to push it out of my mind as best as I could. Yet, it still messes with me to this day. Okay, so it started as a regular evening. I had just gotten home from work, and my fiancé and I were relaxing downstairs in the living room watching TV. Everything seemed normal. However, at some point I noticed that my fiancé put on some headphones and was listening to music pretty loudly. Now, at the time I didn't really think anything of it. However, this was strange, because she really hadn't done that before. Especially since we had been both watching television together, it just seemed kind of peculiar. But I just brushed it off. However, she just seemed really agitated towards me. I remember thinking if I'd done something to upset her, trying to rack my brain as I sat there, but I truly couldn't think of anything. So, again, I brushed it off. A few hours go by and she just seems increasingly agitated, to the point where she basically won't look at me. She's sitting in the corner of the couch, listening to loud music, ignoring me. It starts to unsettle me, so I begin to ask her what's wrong. She loses it. She starts to throw things at me, screaming at me, and we fight over what until this day I, for the life of me, can't think of. I don't even remember what the argument was about. Like, at all. It was such a blur. However, the next thing I remember, she storms upstairs. Me, still upset and confused, I stay downstairs and continue watching TV, letting her go to give her some space. Maybe 30 minutes to an hour go by, and I go check on her. I find her upstairs in her bedroom on the floor, in the pitch black, crying on the floor. I go to ask her what's wrong, but she doesn't answer. She continues to cry on the floor a few more minutes. I try to comfort her, but it's almost as if she doesn't even notice I'm there. Then she stands directly up, almost in a trance, and begins shuffling around the house slowly. I follow her asking what the hell she was doing, but she just never gives me a reply. She just continues shuffling slowly around the house with this strange look on her face. She goes from our upstairs bedroom, down the stairs to our kitchen on the middle floor. She then goes to the banisters in the kitchen and drops to her knees and begins banging her head on them. At this point, I know that something extremely strange is going down. But sleeping's not going to help her get out this trance-like stage, so I just follow her. I put my hands in front of her forehead so that she wasn't completely bashing her forehead on the banisters. I was pleading for her to stop and snap out of it, but she completely ignored me as if I wasn't there. And then she stood back up and began walking upstairs. She goes into our bedroom, walks into our bathroom, walks into our closet, and drops to her knees. At this point, she is sputtering out what seems to be nonsense that I can't understand. She continues to bang her head on the carpeted closet floor. The whole time I'm trying to talk to her, get to her, but to no avail. Eventually, I'm over it. I'm freaked out beyond belief. I just want this to be over. So I grab her and try to lift her up. She begins almost hissing at me, trying to bite me. But at this point, I know that whatever is happening, I just can't let her do this. So forcibly, I heard her downstairs. The whole time she's cussing at me, making very strange noises. I get her to the downstairs living room and I put her on the couch. At this point, she just starts laughing at me, almost evil-like. However, I know my fiancé and this wasn't her. The look on her face literally wasn't her own. I could tell that something had taken over her or something. So I put her on the couch, asked her what is going on and what was happening. I can remember her laughing, looking me in the face, saying that she's gone. She kept saying it over and over. She's gone. She's gone. She's gone. At this point, I was terrified. I had seen enough scary movies to know what was happening. So I told her that I don't accept that, and I kept trying to get to her. This happened for a few minutes. All the time I had to almost hold her on this couch. The next thing I know, she lunges at me trying to bite me. However, this time is different. When she lunges towards me and grabs onto my shoulder, I feel this huge wave of energy that comes along with it. That's the best I can explain it. As a wave of energy. She makes contact with me and I feel completely overwhelmed of a wave of emotion and nausea. I immediately run to a trash can just a few feet away and begin drive heaving extremely heavily. No vomit comes out, but I feel like something is spilling out of my mouth. Yet I don't physically see anything. Seconds later, I then begin crying uncontrollably, harder than I've ever cried in my entire life, just bawling. I crawl up in a ball and I just cry my eyes out. I can feel this extremely strange emotion inside me that I can't even begin to explain, but I just sit there on the floor and cry. I notice my fiancée after I began vomiting. She collapsed onto the floor. Even though I was crying and my eyes out, I can still remember the way she fell. It was like a rag doll being dropped. Her knees just buckled, and she fell to the carpet. Seconds later, she was grasping for air, and crawled to me to comfort me. She then began saying, "I am so sorry," over and over again. It only took a minute or two, but I left that house. I had to get out. The emotion that had taken over me was too overwhelming. I felt like I was emotionally drowning. I ran outside and my fiancé followed. As soon as we got outside, I felt this feeling disappear. I felt normal again. Me and my fiancé just sat outside in our driveway until the morning came. Nothing that intense happened again for the remainder of our lease there. We moved out September of 2019, as soon as our lease was up. However, since that night, we never really felt the same in that house again. I struggled to sleep under that roof. If I did, the lights were on and only a few hours at night. As someone who had always been skeptic of the paranormal, I don't know what to make of this. I'm a science, fact-driven individual. However, no matter how hard I try, I cannot explain what had happened. It was paranormal, and it was terrifying. And until this day, it still haunts me and my family. Nothing has happened to us since we moved out of that house, and I'm hoping it stays that way. I tell my story mostly to just vent because I never told anyone this. It feels really good to get off my chest. But also, if anyone has any similar experience and they feel they can't share with anyone, I'm willing to listen. You're not alone. Thank you all for joining me on this Reddit story thing. Reddit, you spooky. I'd like to thank you guys for watching this Spooktober. I know it's a little bit different from what I've normally done. Let me know down in the comments if you like this format. Don't worry, I won't use this for the normal Reddit stories, but I think it's different and I kind of like it for the spooky stories. So any questions, comments, suggestions, put them down in the comments. If you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you guys in the next video. So until then, later, kids.